words of our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says, "Be sure that I am always present among you to guide and help you in your work and your sadhana. With my love and blessings," says our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says, "At the very moment when everything seems to go from bad to worse, at every moment when, at the very moment when everything seems to go from bad to worse, it is then we must make a supreme act of faith and know that the grace will never fail us." Words of our Divine Mother taken from the collective works of our Divine Mother, question and answers of 1954, date 9th June 1954, page 160. Question, Sweet Mother, what is the work of the psychic being? For this, our Divine Mother says, one could put it this way, that it is like an electric wire that connects the generator with the lamp. Now, if someone has understood, let him explain what I said. For this, the child says, Sweet Mother, what is the generator and what is the lamp? For this, our Divine Mother says, there we are. So, what is the generator? That is exactly it. Or rather, who's the generator? Who's the lamp? And then the child says, the generator is the divine and the lamp is the body. For this, our Divine Mother says, it is the body, it is the visible being. So that is its function. This means that if there were no psychic in matter, it will not be able to have a direct contact with the divine. Let me repeat. If there were no psychic in matter, it will not be able to have any direct contact with the divine. And it is happily due to this psychic presence in matter that the contact between matter and the divine can be direct, and all human beings can be told, you carry the divine within you and you have only to enter within yourself. You will find him. It is something very particular to the human beings, or rather to the inhabitants of the earth. In the human beings, the psychic becomes more conscious, more formed, more conscious, more independent also. It is individualized in human beings, but it is a speciality of the earth. It is a direct infusion, special and redeeming in the most inconscient and obscure matter, so that it might once again awake through stages to the divine consciousness, the divine presence, finally to the divine himself. It is the presence of the psychic which makes man an exceptional being. I do not like to tell him this very much because already he thinks too much of himself. He has such a high opinion of himself that it is not necessary to encourage him. But still, this is a fact. So much so that there are beings of other domains of the universe, those called by some people, some demigods, other gods, and even God's beings for ends for himself. So that there are beings of other domains that it is not necessary to encourage him. But still, this is a fact. So much so that there are beings of other domains of the universe, Those called by some people demigods and even gods, beings, for instance, of what Sri Aurobindo calls the overmind, who are very eager to take a physical body on earth to have the experience of the psychic, for they don't have it. A Divine Mother says, these beings certainly have many qualities that men don't, but they lack their divine presence, which is altogether exceptional and exists only on the earth and nowhere else. All these inhabitants of the higher world, the higher mind, overmind, and other regions have no psychic being. Of course, the beings of the vital worlds don't have it either, but these later don't regret it, they don't want it. There are only those very rare ones, quite exceptional, who want to be converted. And for this, they act without delay. They immediately take a physical body. The others don't want it. It is something which binds them and constrains them to a rule they do not want. But it is a fact. So I am obliged to state that this is how it is. It is an exceptional quality of the human being to carry within himself the psychic, and truly speaking, he does not take full advantage from it. He doesn't even seem to consider this quality as something very, very desirable from the way he treats his presence, exactly that. He prefers to it the ideas of his mind, prefers the desires of his vital being, and the habits of his physical. Question, sweet mother, when we have done something wrong and want to hide it from you, when we come to you, you look as if you know everything or as if you know nothing. Why? For this, our Divine Mother laughs and says, I look as if, oh yes, as though I know nothing or I know everything. Well, my child, all that is for another reason. When I see people, I'm busy with them, I don't want to say it is always possible, but still, I want to see in them their psychic being, their ideal, what they want to do, what they want to be. In order to keep it, pull it to the surface, all my work consists of this. What I see, I pull out always. A Divine Mother says, and so when I'm doing that, apart from those cases in which I'm aware that people are a little conscious of themselves, I'm not always sure of the degree. I'm not always sure of the degree of their outer consciousness, and when I ask questions, it is to know the difference between what they are conscious of, what I see, and this I'm doing all the time. It looks as though I didn't know, doesn't it? I ask a question to find out what you feel, what do you think, what have you experienced. Well, it has to have a clear picture of the degree of your consciousness. Our Divine Mother says, there is a tremendous difference between what you know about yourself. There is a tremendous difference between what you know about yourself and what I know about you. What I know about you is obviously what you ought to be. So outwardly, one sees clearly what people are like, but that is just an outer phenomenon. Between the two, there is the vital and the mental domain, which is the most important from the human point of view. And it is there that in everyone the consciousness of what he ought to be should be reflected so that he may realize it. But there is a vast distance between what each one knows about himself, what is actively conscious in him, what he is in the truth of his being. It is more difficult for him. This intermediate domain is very cloudy one. For me, it is a domain of falsehood, what I call falsehood. Our Divine Mother says there are two words in English, falsehood and lie. Well, it is the sense of falsehood. It is not a lie in the sense that one tells a lie, but it is a domain of what is not true, what is not at all the experience of the truth of a being. Yet, it is of this that he is almost solely conscious. Only a very few have the inner perception of what they want to be, what they want to do, of what the truth of their being is. There are not many such, or else it comes and then gets veiled. Suddenly one has a flash and then it gets clouded over. So, the question I put always, in order to know the state of this surface consciousness, which for me is something quite unreal, something that is not true. There is such a contradiction between the brutal fact of your daily way of life and picture I have before myself of what each one of you ought to be. A picture I keep there with all the power of my consciousness so that you may realize it. And that is yourself. That, yes, is yourself. It is not this ignorant being, stupid and insincere, something dishonest. Who is this whom you call yourself? Our Divine Mother says, listen, my child. I am not quite young according to the ordinary human notions. I am fairly old. From my earliest childhood, I have not stopped observing things. When I was very young, I was chided for never speaking. It was because I spent my time observing. I passed my time observing. I registered everything. I learned all I could. I did not stop learning. Well, I can still feel surprise. Suddenly, I find myself looking at such twisted, insincere, and obscure moments that I tell myself, it is not possible. Can such a thing exist? Indeed, things which still come to me day after day, it is not possible in the world things happen in this way. And yet, I have seen a great number of people. I began being interested in people when very young. I have seen many countries, done what I recommend to others. In every country, I lived the life of that country in order to understand it well. And there is nothing which interested in me in my outer being as much as learning. Our Divine Mother says, well, now I still feel that I know nothing. They may occur in this world under the human consciousness, things which are beyond me. I don't understand how it can be possible. For me, when someone is so twisted up to the point of being unrecognizable, I get the feeling, I always get the feeling that this consciousness of truth, which is trying to manifest, this consciousness of the truth, which is trying to manifest, is seized and completely deformed. And how can one come to such a pass that I have not yet understood? How can one come to this point? Here we are. This is not to discourage you, it is only to tell you why I sometimes ask questions. Even to a little baby, I may ask questions, or I always feel that one can learn something always. There is something else still. There are all the things I see, I have told you, haven't I? That night I go for inspection while others sleep. It is very convenient for me because in sleep one is just what one is. Well, I go around, I inspect, I see all kinds of things. You can't imagine what, but each time that it is possible for me, I ask questions, many questions, in order to check what I have seen. I have done this work for years and years and years. I began working at night in this way consciously in 1904, perhaps, that is 50 years ago, and I have not stopped. Well, even now, in order to be sure of what I see, I always ask practical questions so as to verify, and never do I know it. The tape recorder starts moving, making a loud noise, and then our Divine Mother says, "Finished?" It does not want to go on. Then continues, says, "Never do I have had the kind of assurance people usually have of believing that they know, that they can't be mistaken, and that the thing is understood." Our Divine Mother says, "The world is in a perpetual transformation. Even where I lived 1,000 years and more upon earth, I should continue to learn without stopping, and I am sure I would always learn something new, because what was true yesterday is no longer so today, and what is true today will no longer be so tomorrow. The world is perpetually changing, therefore, one can learn perpetually. And after all, I do not know if that is the very reason for the world. I do not know that is not the very reason for the world. An objectification of oneself in order to know oneself in all detail. There are many details. It can last a very long time, and they are unexpected ones, says our Divine Mother. Question, sweet mother, Sri Aurobindo has said that one can pass from human love to divine love. He was speaking of the human love manifesting as bhakti, says our Divine Mother. He was speaking of human love manifesting as bhakti, as a force of devotion for the divine, and he says that at the beginning, your love for the divine is a very human love with all the characteristics of human love. He describes this very well. Besides, yet if you persist and make the necessary effort, it is not impossible for this human love to be transformed into divine love through identification with what you love. He has not said that the love between the two persons can change into the divine love. It is not that at all. He has always said the opposite. He spoke about someone who had asked him about devotion, about the sadhak's love for the divine. At the beginning, Sri Aurobindo, our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, your love is altogether human, and he speaks of it even as commercial barter. If you make progress, your love will change into divine love, into true devotion. Question. This is dated 30th June 1954. Talk based upon Sri Aurobindo's Elements of Yoga, Chapter 14. Some explanations. Question. Sweet Mother, what is the place of the occult power in yoga? For this, our Divine Mother says, to know and use the subtle forces of the supraphysical planes is the part of the yoga. Question, sweet Mother, what is the meaning of occult endeavor and power? Our Divine Mother says, it depends on the context. Usually, it would mean power to use the secret forces of nature and endeavor by means of these forces, but occult may mean something else in another context. Question, sweet mother, has every yogi to pass through the occult endeavor? For this, our Divine Mother says, no, everyone has not that capacity. Those who do not have it must wait till it is given to them. For this, the child says, sweet mother, Sri Aurobindo is speaking about occult endeavor here and says, those who don't have the capacity must wait. Can they get it through practice? For this, our Divine Mother says, no, that is, if it is latent in someone, it can be developed by practice. But if someone does not have occult power, he may try for 50 years, he won't get anywhere. Everybody cannot have occult power. It is as though you were asking whether everybody can be a musician, everybody could be a painter. Some can, some can't. It is a question of temperament. Question, sweet mother, are religious exercises very important for those who have an ordinary consciousness? For this, our Divine Mother says, you mean japa, etc.? For this, the child says, yes, sweet mother. For this, our Divine Mother says, oh, those things, if it helps you, it is all right. If it doesn't help you, this is one of those altogether relative things. Its value lies in the effect it has on you and the extent in which you believe in it. If it helps you to concentrate, it is good. The ordinary consciousness always does it just through superstition, with the idea that if I do this, if I go to this temple or church once a week, if I offer prayers, something very fine will happen to me. This is a superstition spread across the world, but it has no value at all from the spiritual point of view.